The courthouse steps were slick with morning dew, but HOA Karen's voice cut through the air like a chainsaw through butter. "You owe me, Ethan. You'll pay for abandoning my son," she shrieked, her jowls quivering with theatrical outrage. Ethan Reed, a lanky mechanic with grease-stained hands and a heart full of regret, stood frozen, staring at the woman who'd turned his quiet life into a circus. HOA Karen, a notorious busybody in their small town of Willow Creek, had a reputation for bullying anyone who crossed her path, and now she'd set her sights on him with a lie so bold it could have starred in a daytime soap opera. Ethan had always been a private man, content with his routine of fixing cars and sipping coffee at the local diner. But 6 months ago, HOA Karen stormed into his garage, waving a crumpled photo of a boy who looked vaguely like Ethan's younger self. "This is your son, Ethan. I raised him alone for 10 years, and you're gonna pay," she declared, her voice dripping with venom. Ethan, stunned, had laughed it off at first. After all, he'd never even dated Karen, let alone fathered a child with her. But laughter turned to dread as she produced forged documents, a fake birth certificate, doctored DNA results, and a sob story about a one-night stand Ethan swore never happened. She demanded $2,000 a month in child support, threatening to drag him to court and ruin his name if he didn't comply. The audacity of her lie wasn't just galling, it was personal. Ethan had grown up in Willow Creek, where everyone knew everyone's business. He'd lost his parents young and clawed his way to a modest life, only to have Karen, with her sneering entitlement, try to bleed him dry. She wasn't just after money. She wanted to humiliate him, to paint him as a deadbeat dad in a town that thrived on gossip. Her round face, perpetually twisted into a smirk, seemed to mock his every attempt to reason with her. "You think you're better than me?" she'd spat during one confrontation, jabbing a manicured finger at his chest. "Pay up, or I'll make sure everyone knows what a coward you are." Ethan wasn't a fighter by nature, but he wasn't a fool either. Something about Karen's story didn't add up. The boy in the photo, Timmy, was a quiet kid who lived with Karen and her sister in a cluttered duplex on the edge of town. Ethan had seen him around, always looking uneasy, like he was carrying a secret heavier than his backpack. Determined to clear his name, Ethan hired a private investigator, a gruff ex-cop named Maria who didn't take kindly to liars. Maria's digging uncovered a trail of fraud. Karen had forged the documents with help from a shady cousin who worked at a print shop. Timmy, it turned out, wasn't even her son, who was her nephew, pawned off as her own to scam Ethan and others before him. The real gut punch came when Maria found evidence of Karen's past cons. She'd pulled similar stunts in 2 other towns, extorting men with fake paternity claims before skipping out when things got too hot. Ethan's case was just her latest masterpiece, but this time, she'd picked the wrong target. Armed with Maria's findings, Ethan filed a police report and agreed to confront Karen in court, where she'd foolishly doubled down on her demands. The stage was set for a reckoning, and Ethan, though nervous, felt a flicker of hope that justice might finally catch up with her. On the day of the hearing, the courthouse buzzed with locals eager for drama. Karen arrived in a garish floral dress, her chin held high, as if she were a queen wronged by her subjects. She strutted past Ethan, tossing him a smug glance that said, "I've already won." But Ethan wasn't alone. Maria sat beside him, her steely gaze fixed on Karen, and Timmy's real mother, Karen's sister, Lila, had agreed to testify. Lila, a weary woman with tired eyes, had only recently learned of Karen's scheme and was horrified to discover her son was being used as a prop. The courtroom was a pressure cooker. Karen took the stand, spinning her tale with crocodile tears, claiming Ethan had seduced and abandoned her a decade ago. Her performance was Oscar-worthy, but cracks appeared when the judge, a no-nonsense woman named Clara Holt, pressed her for details. Karen fumbled, her story unraveling as she contradicted herself about dates and locations. Ethan's lawyer, a sharp young woman named Priya, pounced, presenting Maria's evidence, the forged documents, the cousin's confession, and Lila's testimony that Timmy was her son, not Karen's. The room gasped as Priya projected the fake birth certificate onto a screen, its sloppy edits glaring under scrutiny. Karen's face turned beet red, her smirk replaced by a scowl. "This is a setup," she bellowed, slamming her fist on the stand. "You're all jealous of me." The outburst only deepened the hole she'd dug. Judge Holt's voice was ice-cold as she demanded Karen explain the discrepancies. When Karen stammered, offering nothing but insults, the judge called for a recess to review the evidence. Outside, the tension exploded. Karen stormed toward Ethan on the courthouse steps, screaming, "You'll regret this, you nobody." Her voice was a siren, drawing a small crowd. Ethan, shaking with anger, shot back, "You lied about a kid, Karen. You used Timmy like a pawn." Before she could respond, Maria stepped in, holding up a copy of the forged DNA test. "Game's over, Karen," she said, her tone calm but lethal. That's when the police, alerted by the judge, approached. Karen's eyes widened as an officer read her rights, cuffing her wrists while she screeched about injustice. The crowd murmured, some in shock, others in grim satisfaction. Lila, standing off to the side, clutched Timmy's hand, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered to Ethan, who nodded, his own eyes misty. He didn't hate Lila, she was as much a victim as he was. Timmy, quiet as ever, looked at Ethan with a shy smile, as if relieved to be free of the lie. The scene felt like a storm breaking, the air lighter but still heavy with the weight of what had happened. Karen's arrest wasn't just a legal victory. It was a moment of clarity for Willow Creek. People like her thrived on fear and manipulation, but they weren't invincible. Ethan learned that standing up, even when it felt impossible, could shift the world back into place. Lila vowed to protect Timmy from ever being used again, and the town, though slow to change, began whispering less about Ethan's scandal and more about Karen's downfall. As the police van drove Karen away, Ethan stood on the steps, feeling the weight of months lift from his shoulders. He wasn't a hero, just a man who'd refused to let a lie define him. The crowd dispersed, the clouds parted, and for the first time in ages, Ethan felt like he could breathe. Karen's schemes had crumbled, and with them, her reign of terror in Willow Creek. The truth, sharp and unyielding, had cut through her lies. And in that small town, where gossip could ruin a life, Ethan's quiet strength reminded everyone that justice, though slow, could still sting.